I'm your host, Sharada Devi, of the Born to be Free podcast that serves as a bridge between the ancient and the new era, a confluence of opposites where all is seen as sacred and every experience is meant to catapult you into your supreme destiny. I'm so excited. Welcome again to Born to be Free podcast. My name is Sharada Devi, and I have an incredible guest here today, an incredible, beautiful, powerful woman that I met recently at a retreat, which was called Fields of Grace. We were both partaking at this retreat hosted by Sophia Sundari, of which we also have been in the field in the mastermind program. And it was like from the beginning, we had a deep recognition of each other. There was something, I see you, and I felt seen by her. And we're like, we got each other, there's something. And so being in the retreat, self-pleasuring, naked, going to the depths of our like ocean of emotion, dancing Kali, doing so many rituals, and also meeting every day in deep sharing circle and just being truthful to each other. And it was so beautiful and so touching. And I'm so happy that Bibi is today here with me for the next episode of Born to be Free podcast. And Bibi is also, just like me, a Vita certified love, sex, and relationship coach from Leila Martin. We both did the coach training. She's also certified erotic blueprint coach, a holistic sexuality international speaker, an energetic love-making guide. And she has presented her trailblazing, disruptive approach to sexuality throughout the world, including events like Mind Valley Summit and A-Fest Summit LA, YPO and EO forums, and publications like Vogue and Elle Magazine, Marie Claire, and The Con Nest. And she is just like, she has reached the hearts of thousands, 100,000s of people. And I just spoke recently, or I was just invited recently at her membership program to teach a class in the Ladder Encore. And so I'm so excited that you're here today with me, Bibi. And I'd love for you to just introduce yourself because, who know what has about yourself? What are some secrets that maybe nobody knows about you?
First of all, thank you for this beautiful introduction. And yes, there was a beautiful connection that I felt with you as well. And yeah, something very special. And that fire and passion in your eyes that really speaks to me and inspires and is kind of, irresistible. So here we are. Yeah, I not always been this, in this goddess vibes. I actually, uh, more than half of my life was on the opposite end. I grew up in communism. I worked in a corporate world, male dominated, finance, banking for 15 years. I was living unfulfilled life that I was covering up with sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Sadly, it was unconscious sex. A lot of very shallow incidents, faking orgasms, and just a lot of ego-driven encounters that were not nourishing, neither for my body nor for the soul. And yeah, had a beautiful moment of actually kind of losing my mojo, going through a midlife crisis. That was the most challenging moment in my life, but the most profound and the most important, because that was an invitation to look for the answers elsewhere and finally gave me strength to leave the comfort of the golden cage and really go and look for what is this that puts my heart on fire and brings that, fire in our eyes, right? That I can see in you. And it was very scary. And it took years. I sometimes like to share because people think, oh, she just quit her job and just found her passion and it's just all been beautiful and easy. No, it took actually years of trying so many different things and that didn't necessarily work, but brought me closer to to that mission, to that passion that I'm aligned with right now. So it was a journey of few years, and it wasn't even planned. It kind of, nothing is by accident, but it was really a serendipity. And I ended up on a workshop, had my first full body orgasm, then things changed, and I was so excited about it that I started to magnetize people towards me who wanted to know more, even though I had nothing to share at this point apart from my own story. But I was really authentic in it. And that was really something that felt good. The mind didn't really understand yet what's going to happen or where it's going to take me. But the intuition was telling me this is the direction you should be following. And my pussy was on fire. My heart was feeling expanded and nourished. And I'm so glad that I followed that calling because it hasn't always been easy. And I remember my dad even thought that I joined a sect. And yeah, I was older and I started just a new career from scratch, from zero. And I think it was really bold and courageous. So yeah, here I am. But it wasn't always easy and roses. And yeah, at the same time, every challenge and difficulty and um, you know, learning on this way made me who I am today.
Yeah.
Made me smarter, wiser, deeper, so I can really hold space for others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. At first, I just want to like really like, wow, feel that with you, like this journey you've gone and that you went in spite of all the challenges. And I would love to also know some of the challenges that you faced actually, but just like really acknowledging and feeling that. And for all the ones that are watching and listening to just feel like, wow, like coming from the finance world in Wall Street, even, right?
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
what? You
Not
were
so
Wall Street?
glamorous, but I absolutely hated it.
You hated it and you came out of it, like, and changing your career after 15 years you were in finances,
Yeah.
right? And then changing your career radically, like, and into something so out of the box, like conscious sexuality, becoming a energetic coach and a teacher of how to have a full body orgasm, like what? And I really want to
Yeah.
say, like, the authenticity that I have felt from you from the very beginning, even when we didn't meet in person, because we were together for like 6 months only, not only, but yeah, in the online world. And you were just like, it's just real and just saying how things are for you. And I love
And I
that.
was mainly crying, actually. I was mainly crying on those Zoom calls.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I was going through a hard time. Yeah.
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 Yeah. A hard time. Like, yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about
Yeah.
it as well, like the hard
Yeah.
times. And that like that goddess rising and the women rising and all of that. Yes, there is the glamorous and beautiful time and the magnificence and the vitality and the glow, but to actually have the glow and the magnificence and the magnetism, there's this like descent. Yeah.
Descent first. Yeah.
Well, I'd love to hear from you. So really, first of all, amazing. I'm celebrating you and thank you so much for doing what you're doing. It inspires thousands, hundred thousands of people, women and affects men and non-binary and all beings really, because we really need this sexual revolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were some of the challenges that you faced when you changed your career?
Yeah. So first of all, I think there is just a lot of doubt and insecurity.
Mhm.
Like, am I too old? I was were over 30. Um, who am I to teach this? Who
Yeah,
am I to share? There
yeah,
are some people who have been doing this for 20 years. I don't know, Sarita or Margot Anand, who
yeah,
spend all their life exploring those topics. And who am I really to, to to teach thousands of people? Then,
yeah,
am I good enough? Am I going to be able to handle people who come with trauma, sexual abuse? Am I experienced enough to hold space for that? So all this like imposter syndrome and insecurities that come along, and they come along all the way, because as you grow, then you also attract clients with even more complex background,
Yeah.
or you attract couples with even more complicated situation, right? So as you grow and your field gets bigger, then the challenges of the clients are also getting more significant, right? Because you are able, this continues to grow. So that was definitely one. Another one was it's kind of I didn't experience too much of that, luckily, but it did happen, that you have people, from trolls to, I don't know, the friends of my parents. Not that I care, but I was sometimes sad about all the comments that were made around what I do to my parents more than anything.
Yeah.
Didn't feel comfortable to them.
Mm.
Or some trolls on internet or social media who, there were some comments on different websites where people who never even worked with me called me a scammer. This is like a typical situation. Apparently, everyone now says that, if you don't have a thread on internet, then you're not a well-known teacher enough. Every well-known teacher now has a thread and is being called scammer and
Mm.
whatnot. But
Mm.
hey, I'm really a sensitive person.
Mm.
I feel
Mm.
I put so much love and care and work into this. And when you hear all these comments, it's not like I am made of stone. It touches me deeply.
Yeah.
So this was another thing that was challenging. And maybe I'm going to add one more,
Mm.
um, that again, it's a double-edged sword, because this topic became quite popular and I started to grow really, really fast. And especially then pandemic accelerated the online part of my business.
Mm.
And it kind of grew by 10x. And you have to build a business around it. You have to build a structure. You have to build a team.
Yeah.
And in the online world, things change so much.
Mm.
It's not like a factory of shoes that, needs year or two to adjust. In the online business, things change from one day to another. I'm going to give an example, right? The algorithm on Instagram changes in just last 2 months. And all of a sudden, 80% of my posts are flagged.
Yeah.
And you have to change the whole strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to change the way you speak, and the whole channel that you build is kind of gone in a day, right? So building a team, managing a team, becoming also a business owner and an entrepreneur, and an influencer in a way, because this is also where this is our opportunity, our platform where we share. There's
Mm.
a lot of hats that we have to wear, and I think to the external world, this coaching world is glorified and looks like we are just doing millions, being in our feminine and playing with our pussies under the sun. But trust me, there's so much more work that goes into it, and resilience and commitment and devotion and difficult decisions and turnarounds and constantly a need to learn new things. And it's been challenging, because there were moments that I found myself, hey, I'm 80% of my time managing my business and
Yeah.
20% of my time teaching.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to back. I want to spend more of my time in teaching and serving, but yet the other part is required.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of courage. And yeah, I think, I heard someone say that relationships and entrepreneurship are two fastest, pathways to growth and expansion. And I really think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot that I had to learn, and there's a lot of difficult decisions that I took,
Mm.
um, and that I learned from.
Mm. Yeah. 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 Thank you for sharing and being so honest about it, because I feel that's especially now the challenge three, and I'm gonna go a little bit back also to challenge like one or two and three if we can put them into numbers. But yeah, the challenges of being a business owner, of wanting to serve, really. Like we would like it to be the opposite way of 80% teaching and serving and 20% managing the business. But the reality, it really is like, okay, here 80% is just like you gotta sweat and really be there, present. And the way I kind of am with that, and I'd love to hear how you handle it, and is that I'm looking at this as if you're becoming a mom, like a mother, and you have a child, you just
Yeah.
gotta cook and you gotta make food and you gotta do the laundry and you gotta do the cleaning and you get to do all these things. And and then you have some time also with your child that you just enjoy. But you're a mom and you cannot just say, oh, I don't want to do the cleaning and the laundry and the cooking. It's like you just gotta do it. It's your sacred duty. And
Yeah.
I kind of look at this with the whole business and making the posts and managing the team. Like, okay, this is my baby, and it's my sacred duty to take care of these things that I don't like so much. But I love to hear from you. How do you manage it? Like,
Listen, do I have a one answer to this? No. And I think I go through periods. First, I was growing my team. And, I was like, okay, I want to be more in my flow of teaching and channeling new content and creating. So I started to hire a lot of people. But then all of a sudden, the team was really big and my account got suspended for 2 or 3 months on Instagram last year. And that's my main channel. So then, this impacted the number of clients that I could call in into my field and containers. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go try the opposite. I'm going to downsize the team and I'm going to simplify things.
yeah,
And I don't think there's a one answer to this whole thing necessarily. And you just need to be flexible and evolve. And it's like a live organism.
mm,
And continuously just need to be prepared, I think, more than anything, to make peace with change, constant change. Nothing is constant. If you think you figured it out, you all put it in place and now it's just going to flow effortlessly. Not my experience. So being flexible, being okay with change, letting go, trying new things, learning new things. And yeah.
yeah,
And 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 I'm really enjoying the journey of it
mm,
all.
yeah. And of course,
Rather
lots
than
and
having
lots of
it,
self.
yeah,
Excuse me. Yes.
yeah, and just not like, sometimes people ask me, where do you want to be in 5 years? I'm actually, after the pandemic, I'm not so attached to those 5 years, 10 years goals, because life can just be radically, disrupted and change in a matter of minutes. Um, So more just trusting my guts and being in a flow.
Mm, yeah.
No, it sounds very wishy-washy and woo-woo, but this is once I left finance and banking and corporate world, where it was all like 3-year plan, 5-year plan, spreadsheet, goals, KPIs. Um, Currently, and just this whole new part of my life, chapter of my life, when I do what I do right now, has been all led by intuition and what feels good in my body.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Really
so
applying also the tools that you're teaching.
also that.
That's really so important. Like all these self-pleasure tools to really do it because it's so easy to not do it, right?
Oh, totally, totally. Yeah, yeah. And especially now that I'm in my father's home, and his bedroom is just next to mine. Yeah,
And did you actually really tell him that? Because I saw on your Instagram.
I did.
You did? You told him, like, what did you tell him? Please
I
tell us.
told you that my dad knows what I do. I finally was actually able to buy a Diane Richardson book. I found it in Poland. She's my favorite author. The Base of Tantric Sex. I was like that because when I explain it to him in Polish, I sound like a 5-year-old. So I was like, Dad, you're gonna read this. So finally, it's gonna be well explained what I do. But my dad knows what I do, and he's very proud of me now.
Oh,
That we passed the moment that I joined a sect, and he witnessed me and hear from several women how their life has been changed. So he knows I'm like that. I'm doing my practice. If you hear the noises, just know that everything is okay. There's a whole altar. There are all the wands, several wands just displayed on the altar. And yeah, he's okay with that.
Wow. And you
Yeah.
told him that Sundays is my self-pleasure day, right?
Ritual Sunday. That
Which
is right.
Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how was his expression?
To be honest with you, here I don't know. I think it should just you go used to it. I was never like, and yeah, I was never normal. I was never normal. I was never fitting into the masses and just into the normal description. I always would dress differently, do different things. So I think by now he's got used to it.
Yes.
So yeah.
He even took a card, right? After the retreat that we went and you came home, he took a
My
card.
dad right now has a person who is doing a Reiki healing on him every day. Doing cards, cleansing energetically the space, sound healing, and yeah, he's going through a tough time health wise, and he found this person for himself. I was really proud. So I don't think he even knew what he's gonna get himself into, but he's in it right now. So he's having Reiki sessions every day.
Wow, wow. And that's also why you are in Poland right now, and I decided to
Yes.
go home.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, so we thought this is also a topic we can touch on. So why not? I think it can be a right moment. So
Mm.
yeah, maybe some of you know me from Instagram, and I used to receive a comment that people just look at my Instagram and they really want to live my life,
Mm.
and that it all looks all dreamy and spectacular. And it might have, because I used to live in Tulum for many years, giving workshops, speaking on stages all over the world. But there's also another part to it. And my mom last year passed away after 6 months of a very difficult um, fight with the disease. I fell in love and it didn't work out, and we said goodbye to each other, and I was hugely heartbroken. And when I finally, after a few months, felt that I'm back in my power, my dad was diagnosed with a 4-stage cancer. So, and I'm the only child. So I'm back in Poland. And yeah, these things really put me on my knees. And um it's kind of we forget about those things. I realize how little contact I have with people who are old and sick and suffering, sometimes in our bubbles of Tulum or Bali, right, where it's all ecstatic dance and beautiful ceremonies and just joy and bliss. um and I was reminded of this other part, and we literally, put on my knees and crying and whipping on the floor. And that's also when I realized how helpful are all the tools that we share with our clients, and how relevant they are all to help ourselves as well.
Yeah.
And is it a beautiful crystal wand practices where I literally had experiences that I didn't even know if it was orgasm or crygasm or griefgasm. It just was all woven into one. All my emotional releases, cathartic moments where I allowed myself to really cry and scream and feel the void and death and loneliness and this scary idea of me being totally alone on this planet pretty soon, and
Yeah.
not having an anchor, not having a root anywhere in the world, and
Yeah.
just allowing that fear and the vastness and the void that comes with it. And then knowing at the same time that we at the same time are good, that we can trust, that there is that, you know, peace deep inside, and that we can come back to. And also using all the sexual practices to really alchemize the pain. And Yeah, it's been a beautiful journey, and I feel like this really gave me a whole new level of depth
Mm,
and to my teachings and to the way I can hold clients.
mm,
So again, those difficult moments in our lives are usually the biggest portals.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to share like what it means exactly to like with the sexual
Mhm.
practices to alchemize the
Yeah.
pain? Yeah.
Yeah. So when I think I was like at the bottom of it, like really it was the last, few weeks of my mom's death with like the most intense suffering. And I was also going through this heartbreak.
Mm,
I created a ritual
mm,
where every day in the morning I would put a music that was really scary or dark or tragic. And I it would take me to all those places that we kind of want to avoid, right? Like avoid the void. The void.
mm. Avoid, exactly.
Where exactly, right? Where I would really feel that pain in my heart, where I would really feel the vastness of death and the fear of being alone, and just allow myself to feel it
Yeah.
all the way through and cry and scream and just fully embody and express all these emotions of anger, frustration, fear, and like fully dive deep into it. And I would do it with such an intensity and aliveness that after a while I would just simply collapse,
Mm,
collapse from exhaustion of
mm,
the crying and the intensity of the emotions. And there was something really beautiful in this collapse. There was a surrender. There
mm.
was a surrender. And from that surrender, I would slowly rebuild myself. And then I even make beautiful playlists for this with meditation, with chanting, with soothing, beautiful music. And from there, I would introduce pleasure
Mm,
into, again, alchemizing the intensity of that emotion and bring pleasure. And sometimes it would not necessarily go to an orgasm, or it not necessarily would be ecstatic. Sometimes this pleasure would be soothing. Sometimes this pleasure would be grounding. Sometimes the pleasure would be just loving and tender, and it would be more of just a caress, an embrace. And sometimes it would be more ecstatic and orgasmic, but it would just bring me back to this, I know I am essentially well. I know I will be fine. And I know also deep inside that this experience will mature me as a woman,
mm,
will expand me as a teacher, will just take me to kind of more depth of my own being.
mm,
So that's what I mean by that. But
yeah.
more than anything, it's really going into feeling the emotion, embodying them, expressing them, and then using the body and then using the pleasure to move them through you and then invite more ecstatic, more joyful, alive states.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for explaining this so well. And this will, I'm sure, inspire many to face some of their difficult challenges and especially the emotions, because like the difficult challenges, what it really is, it's the emotions. Like it's
Yeah.
that emotions, the overwhelm of all these feelings and emotions. And we think that these emotions are going to kill us,
Hmm.
but they're not.
They're
If we
not.
don't feel them, then they might going to kill us and
Yeah.
maybe stuck in the body. And but if
Yeah.
feeling them,
Yeah. And also just reminding everyone, and it's such a big part of my courses,
yeah,
everyone wants to feel more pleasure,
yeah,
more bliss, more orgasm, more ecstasy. But in order to get there, you need to expand your capacity to feel. And it's not like you can choose. I want to feel this and this and that, but I don't want to feel that. I
that,
almost want to say, like, your capacity to feel pleasure and ecstasy is proportional to your capacity to hold pain, anger, frustration, and sadness.
mm,
So to me, it was a beautiful journey, and I feel like my orgasm expanded as well through this process. So yeah, anyone listening to this and going through a hard time, and I know many of you will, because we are going through a hard time as a collective,
Yeah.
see it as a beautiful portal for really maturing, deepening, expanding, and welcome it. Don't resist, don't run away, don't distract yourself. Dive deep. Those emotions are not going to kill you.
I
They're
know.
going to enrich you.
Exactly. They're like the flavor in the Vedic tradition, we call them rasa. So rasas is the flavor of life. Like imagine life would be only one flavor, like you would have only salty.
Or only vanilla. No.
Only vanilla. No, we want the chocolate and the strawberry and
Yeah.
the mango.
And
Yeah.
yeah, this feeling of aliveness, really, very alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like Kali, the goddess, and that's the ritual we also have done together. That was really like Kali she is the goddess of time. In other words, she is the goddess of change. And so if you are in a situation right now, or you will come, and we will all eventually have a challenging situation because death is inevitable in the Vedic tradition, where Tantra comes from and yoga comes from, and kind of Tantra is the new yoga, right? And Kali is one of the main goddesses to embrace that change, to embrace that death.
Yeah, I was definitely, my last year was Kali themed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Inspired, or however you want to call it. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, yes, so beautiful. I'm really touched, and to hear from, in this raw moment right now, like being right there, right now here in your home. I'm also myself at the moment back in Switzerland after 22 years coming back, and just meeting home, meeting parents, and thanks goddess for all these beautiful sacred tools that help us rise. And that's the gift of the sexual revolution. And that's your mission. Like, so do you want to just share a little bit about what is your mission, and what do you see as a for the future of what is possible, like your vision, for all of us to join that vision and rise and really be part of this new paradigm of this
Yeah.
is possible.
Yeah. And I'm just great question. And I was reflecting on this recently. I think one of my followers wrote to me a very nasty message saying, "Why are you not posting about Gaza? I can't believe you just, all about orgasm or pleasure. People are dying in the world, and you're not even mentioning uh, what's going on in the other part of the world." And I responded to this message, and I truly, truly believe if people would have access to teachings around conscious sexuality, if people would self-pleasure in the way that really invites self-love and the reverence for the body, if women would be treated with respect and honor, if their bodies would be treated as a temple, if would we worship the goddess, if we would make love in a way that the energy expands and nourishes the heart and the soul, there would be less abuse, less rape, less war, less hate. And this is my way of bringing, making this world a better place. It's not necessarily, posting about Gaza and getting upset about this, or Iran or Ukraine, but it's really bringing orgasms and pleasure as a healing modality for this world. And I truly, truly believe, and I have witnessed this over and over again, how powerful and impactful it is, right? I have hundreds of women with trauma, sexual abuse that end up in my containers. And when we bring pleasure and orgasmic force as a healing capacity, I see these women flourish, blossom, take space in life, leave toxic relationships, start companies, become artists, start speaking their truth. Like, how beautiful is that? Because we need, and the same with men who end up in my containers. I have a big couples course. So beautiful. I have company owners who are like, wow, now I am buying a meditation app for every employee in my company. I am bringing conscious conversation. I became a conscious leader. I am organizing, coaches for people that work in the company, right? So to me, this is my mission,
Mm.
to bring pleasure and orgasms and conscious sexuality to people. So essentially, we can bring more love, more healing, more love, more harmony into the world,
Mm.
rather than things being suppressed and perverse and rape and hate and abuse and then war, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So simple, but it seems so complicated. Like
So simple, but so complicated. And for so many reasons, really.
yeah.
If you look at, gosh, I just was having, this is an intimate share. I started a new group of my Ladder to Bliss container for women, and I always interview one-on-one all the women who have a history of trauma and abuse and rape and molestation. So I can, better support them. So many of them shared they were molested in a church environment
Wow.
or by a priest
Wow.
or by a religious event. It's just like one after the other. And, it's scary because those are the institutions that have so much power, that are so widely accepted, and that are praised and glorified. And there will be a lot of work to change this dynamic that will be required, and then also the abuse, sadly, of power and the abuse of sexuality that is very, very easy. And how do we avoid that, right? So it's like a double-edged sword. It's powerful, but it's powerful also in a way that it can be abused very
Yeah.
easily. So,
Yeah.
a lot of things. Um, but we talked about it a little bit, and this is also something that is commented about among teachers in our in our world, that tantra will become the new yoga. And the same way 30 years ago, no one would think that there would be a yoga studio literally every 3 blocks. I can see how sexuality is becoming this topic, and it's just so powerful. And I'm so happy that we are a part of this movement. And thousands of years of history, we are now the generation that has access to this information and has also capacity to spread this information. So I'm really, really curious where it's going to go in few years.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
exciting. It's an exciting moment.
It is. It is. I love that vision. Wow. And I can, yeah, like to see how sexuality and conscious sexuality, sacred sexuality, holistic sexuality, how it's spreading and people really coming back to themselves and actually loving their bodies. I mean,
Yeah.
wow. Like, and let's just hold that vision, and all of the listeners and those that are watching, like when we have the shared intention, and then you do a prayer or a little ritual, like, and our collective intention will change the world, will make an impact. We can never ever underestimate our will, our
Yeah.
prayers, our intention. And then if you add a little bit of your arousal and your pleasure, right, then we're going into sex
Yeah.
magic, and then like, wow,
Yeah.
everyone is starting to love their bodies again. And wow.
And it's also so funny. I started to organize. I don't think it's a good name, but I'm gonna bring this name to like start a conversation. I started to organize sex parties.
Yeah.
I don't, they're not really sex parties, and I know many people will immediately have the image of eyes wide shut, but it's more of sensual ceremonies.
Mm.
And my vision is like, 10, 20 years from now, the same way there's a yoga studio every, 3 blocks, there will be a place where we can consciously socialize.
Mm.
And those parties, there's no drugs, no alcohol, no phones.
Mm.
People are present, People are connecting, really. People are know what consent is. And it's just so beautiful, where we can play with sensuality, we can play with touch. There doesn't have to be sex, actually, but just being present, connecting on a deeper level, being sensual, being playful, playing with erotic energy. And there are people crying in the closing circle of those events. We have men who said, well, we had a history of sexual abuse. This was the most healing event we've ever been to. We didn't even know that such interaction is possible, in a sensual and erotic context.
Yeah.
Imagine, like, this would be a new version of a bar.
Yes. And so it is.
Because so many people after those events tell me, Bibi, this is how we want to spend our time on Saturday night. And I'm
Exactly.
like, this is exactly why me and my girlfriend created it, because this is how we want to spend time, and we couldn't find it because the sex parties we went to were fuck fest and not what we wanted.
Yeah.
Most places of drugs and alcohol, people are not present,
Yeah.
and we creating what we want. So we're bringing it all over the world. And gosh, part of this vision is that we're going to have this, instead of 7-Eleven, we're going to have those sensual ceremonies everywhere in the world.
And so how can people join it? Like how they're gonna find out where these sex parties are happening?
So yeah, exactly. I don't like to use the word sex party, because then it actually would be surprised, Sharada, how scared people are. My Lord, men are even almost more scared sometimes than women. And we've done a whole video. So yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, and I sometimes post. We've been very, we interview people. We really curate the attendance, especially as we are starting, and we want to set the right tone, and we want to create a really safe space. So we have an application form, etc., etc. But I talk about it on my Instagram. I talk about it on my newsletter. So yeah, that's where people can find out a little bit more.
Perfect. Wonderful. I'm gonna join you. I'm gonna join this.
We're gonna co-create.
We're gonna co-create. I can see us already co-creating around the world. Okay. So
Yeah.
stay tuned for Bibi
Yeah.
and sacred sensual
Mm.
ceremonies. Yeah, so beautiful. And just one, like, there's so many things, and we can continue, and we're gonna have as part 2 and part 3 and part 4 as we go. I really admire how you get around with like finding your way and speaking about it, about conscious sexuality in social media, but now finding a new vocabulary, because you have to like make your way through it. And I feel that that's like, like, can you give like because there's going to be many watching and listening that are like on the path, coaches, therapists, and
yeah. So one of the things that I talk a lot about is lovemaking. I kind of had to stop using the word sex.
Yeah.
And I speak about lovemaking, and especially that my whole career, if you can say so, started with the workshop that became very, very famous. I did the talk, I did not know where it's going to take me. Who knew? And it was called Introduction to Energetic Lovemaking, because I started to experience full body orgasms, and I wanted to tell the whole world about it. And yeah, I started to make love energetically with lovers and partners. So I love to talk about lovemaking. I love to talk about erotic expansion, erotic aliveness. I like to talk about sensuality. I'm so sensual. And I feel that sensuality is kind of what we lost in our society. We have sexuality, but we go from nothing to sexual.
Yeah.
And sensuality is getting lost along the way, So I talk a lot about that. Yeah, erotic expression, different erotic languages that we have. And yeah, so these are some of the things that are maybe not so mainstream or obvious, right? It's not just, conscious sex or breathing. There's just all these layers and textures, and it's endless once you start diving deeper into it.
And actually, we're enhancing the vocabulary and become even more incredible
Yeah.
deep lovers, because words are a big part of the love making, right? To choose
Yeah.
words that really
Big part. And it's so funny, as I am preparing for some of the interviews and podcasts in Poland that I got invited to. And I actually don't know how to speak in Polish about sexuality. And there's very few words. I learned all this when I was an adult living abroad. But even I talked with Polish girlfriends, it's like, what words do you use? There is just a shortage of words, and it's a shame. And I hope we do find a new vocabulary and are just a step ahead of Meta and other platforms.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bibi. Is there anything else you want to share from your pussy or yoni or heart that is just like, oh, the world needs to know this? Or
Yeah. What I would love to share, maybe I work so much with women who experienced trauma, who experienced abuse, rape, have been molested. And I know how scary it is to do this work.
yeah.
It's interesting. As I started this group, some of these women share with me, well, we've been following you for 3 years, and
Mm,
only now we have the courage
to join.
to say yes to this.
Yeah.
It's literally people listen to me for talking to for years
Mm,
before they take a step. And I know it's scary and I know it's overwhelming. And yet I just want everyone to know that the path of healing doesn't have to be as painful, as scary as the events that caused the trauma.
mm,
Actually, healing can also be filled with pleasure and ecstatic and orgasmic.
mm,
Pleasure is not a waste of time. When you dedicate yourself to pleasure, it doesn't mean you are a bad mom or that you're not an activist enough because you should be posting about war somewhere. It's actually a gift to yourself and a gift to our society,
mm,
who got so disconnected from our body, from our capacity to feel, for the beauty and power of orgasmic states. So I really invite you to explore. And once you will be inside of containers, is it mine or is it like Sharada's, you will see how safe and beautiful and sacred and nourishing they are. So I hope more and more people will just start doing this work.
mm, mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. It touches deeply, and ah, it's hitting like that point of feeling guilty for having pleasure, and that
totally.
runs so deep in our society. Like we're having pleasure, but there's this guilt. Oh, I'm enjoying myself. How
Yeah,
dare I?
yeah,
While other people are suffering.
yeah,
And like once we get to that, it's like, how dare I not? Like
yeah,
I'm privileged enough, and I have food, and I'm healthy, so celebrate and dance for all the ones that cannot, and
yeah,
send them
yeah,
love and celebration and healing and pleasure, and we will get to them. Like that's the energetic love making. We can send all of
yeah.
them to people that are
Yeah, and I kind of experienced this guilt trip when I was living in Tulum during the pandemic and lockdown, and I was in a beautiful environment on an empty beach, swimming naked and just having the best time of my life.
yeah, me the same in Bali.
And feeling, and I was not posting because, like, wait, people are miserable, locked down all over the world. I cannot be posting that I'm having a good time. And only then I understood, when I actually opened my online courses, all this pleasure, all this privilege, all this nourishment that I am able to experience, I am going to use it to support the women all over the world who are in a different situation.
Mm,
And this kind of, again, it was another deeper layer of this conditioning that got unraveled. And yeah, it's okay for me to enjoy and have this beautiful life. And then the question, what am I going to do with this? Am I going to show off to get more followers, or am I actually going to use it to support all these women? who were looking forward to the calls all week long and who felt like this was their highlight of the lockdowns, you know, and yeah. So it's like a never-ending journey of learning and unraveling and peeling layers.
Thank you so much, Bibi. Oh, I love you so much. And I wish you and your family and just all the strength and love and care and for sacred transitions.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for your time, your presence, what you're doing in the name of all beings. And may it come back 1,008 infinite times to you.
Yeah. And thank you. I even notice how your presence, which is very feminine, there's something really special. Like it's so powerful that I even observe myself becoming softer and speaking different throughout this podcast. I really feel like I got invited into your field. Yeah, very beautiful. Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you everyone so much for watching, listening this incredible podcast, and follow Bibi on Instagram, on the website. It's Bibi. Can you say it? Yes, how's your last name pronounced?
My last name is a nightmare, guys. So Planet Bibi is my handle, Planet Bibi. And then my website is energeticlovemaking.com, and it's gonna convert you to it's gonna take you to my name page. Very Polish, complicated name. So that's why.
Yeah. So thank you so much for watching, listening, for your time. And I pray that this has inspired you. I know it has, and planted seeds. And join Bibi's World Ladder to Bliss. It's a 3 months deep dive in
15 weeks.
15 weeks, right? Do you just want to say a few words about what it is?
Yeah, it's really like the deepest dive, my signature course for women, where we cover literally everything from orgasmic activations to love for the body, for energy mastery, like a journey of womanhood. And it's live container. I have over 500 women who passed through this course. And then my another important course is Ecstatic Lovers, which is a 6 months deep dive live for couples. And all the rest, you can see there's some free practices, guys, on my Instagram, my website, Erotic Glow, Soul Connector. Download them, feel the way of my transmission and the way of my delivery. If that resonates, then I welcome you to my world.
Amazing. Planet Bibi. Ooh. Love it.
Trust me, I didn't know where I'm gonna end up when I started this handle.
That's probably a whole other story how that happened. That name, that handle.
This was long before I started with conscious sexuality, but here we are, trusting. Thank you so much. I'm sending you lots of love.
Thank you, everyone. And yes, to support the Born to Be Free podcast, it would mean the world to me if you share this episode with all the people that you feel they will benefit from this and it may change their life. And follow the Born to Be Free podcast on Spotify and on YouTube. And please share a review also how this has landed for you, what has touched you, any takeaways, anything and everything is welcome. I love you so much. And until next time. From my heart to yours, deepest gratitude for your presence. May you follow your wildest dreams, live your highest purpose, and expand into the infinite, because that's what you are.